Say, well, how do you start the site? And I said, what we do is we go to the site and we also bring an offering to the site. Work so hard, obtain an office, and it's ours. It's crazy. Oh, you're going to the outhouse. How do you do modern architecture, to incorporate all these meanings?
Oh, that's a master plan for Navajo Prep.
Yep, Navajo Prep. We've also, this was a design competition for the Justice Facility in Winter Rock. This one is another one. This is a master plan for a chapter house, Kanta chapter house. So we're trying to kind of revitalize and think about what a chapter house is on Navajo. So this is the new design. They're still waiting for funds.
Okay.
And yeah, we have all these other.
So who usually goes through the funding for chapter houses and funding come from and all that?
A lot of the funding though, the local chapters have to look for funding, and they will seek help from their council delegates.
Oh, okay.
And then from their council delegates, it goes to Navajo. Some chapters can go to also their state legislature to get funds for the chapter houses. I think right now chapter houses function with so much that they have to do within their community. It's just not local governments, but people are going there to connect to internet. People are going down for, social, while we need help. A child facility, elder center, college, getting assistance through college, exercise. Their functionality for a chapter house is really grown. And I think it would be nice to start thinking about chapter houses, kind of a community within the community for people to get resources for the, multi-generational facility. Something I think goes back to our traditional ways of how we would plan our communities. They would talk, they'd communicate, they'd plan, and it was all about through that storytelling aspect. So the way that we come up with a lot of our concepts is going back to really this Indigenous way of thinking and design and planning. A lot of, today's work, it's always about quickly, let's just get something done as quickly as we can, as fast as we can. Understanding that, but if you look at some of our Indigenous structures, there's a lot of meaning behind it.
We're not surviving, we're thriving. And that was a concept that another female entrepreneur told me recently.
And it's great. And I think, thinking about architecture and really thinking about our traditional ways is really important, because we got to go back to that. And it's really thinking about this Indigenous worldview and what does that mean? It's the connection to the natural world, connection to our elements, Mother Sky, and all of those things that we've been taught. And people say, well, how do you start the site? And I said, part of it is you go to the site, and a lot of people don't realize that what we do is we go to the site and we also bring an offering to the site. A traditional offering, letting, the land, the two-legged, the four-legged beings that were there or were there before us to give us permission to start designing, thinking, and planning, and having good thoughts part of that process, right? Because we're always thinking about, well, if you don't plan it with good thoughts, it's not going to happen.
It's like going to a sacred site. You don't just go there to go there. You go there to offering, come there with positive vibes, for a positive purpose, and
And when you go into traditional ceremony as well, it's you go there and you're thinking about this positiveness, right? So it's the same thought of building that from the ground up. And we always have to continue to educate and remind people that that was the process of really our Indigenous structure, that we look at right now. Any type of Indigenous structure, like our Hogans, right? Those are where we have a lot of our ceremonies from. So our design process is we try not to take literal interpretations of these Indigenous iconic architectures. They're very sacred, right? So what we try to do is emulate things in a way that represent the stories of the people, and the culture, the history, and their traditions.
Yep.
So that's how we come up with our concepts. And it's really about listening to the people rather than, I feel like in architecture school, we're always taught about form follows function.
Yes.
And that this type of model is brought to usually a community or a project with already the thoughts being generated. Mm-hmm. But when you're working and you're thinking, in an Indigenous community, it's about those stories. So those stories are how we come up with our concepts. Mm-hmm. But for some time, we haven't really done that. Mm-hmm. Government has really taken over, how we design schools, right? Yep. How we design our government buildings, how we design our hospitals, how we design our housing. And they're given this template saying, this is how you guys have to design. But there's a lot of missing components to it about our traditional well-being and our thinking and our planning and our ideas.
And it kind of, you kind of remind me of how so what a lot of people don't know is Tamara and I used to work together. And one of the projects we worked on together was early phases of the Justice Centers that went up on the Navajo Nation, the first one ever, I guess. Mm-hmm. And what I liked about that is they put in a lot of traditional element into it. Mm-hmm. And that's something you continue to follow now with. So how long has your firm been around?
Our firm, 10 years. So nice. It's been 10 years and it's gone by so fast. It feels like when I started, we were working out of my house. And we always share those stories about putting proposals together. And I have this electric stove and we were putting proposals together, layering things out. We would get USBs, we'd go into the garage and we print the proposals. We would lay out all the drawings. It was in the living room. And I was like, wow, just from transitioning. And I actually had people working in my house, there'd be 3 of us on the kitchen table, 1 in the living room, 1 and 3 other people in the spare bedroom, and tables and stuff like that. It's crazy how you would dream of something and then where you're at now. And it's we've worked so hard, to obtain an office, and now it's ours. It's crazy.
This is fun.
Yeah, I'm it's crazy. It's like my other house, right? Yeah.
So Theo, I think he's been with you since the beginning, yeah?
Yeah, Theo's been with me from the beginning. I started teaching at UNM when I left the firm that we worked for.
Yeah.
I started teaching a class called Navajo Design and Planning. Mm-hmm. And then we're also, started doing design studios, grad and undergrad design studios. So I met Theo when he took my class, which is Navajo Design and Planning. And I remember him, being very, outspoken about, what he wanted to do with design. So I basically approached him and hey, would you be interested in coming on and working, with me? And he was like, sure. So he started, and it's so crazy. And last year he was actually promoted as an associate.
I saw that I think I saw that on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And congrats to Theo.
Theo, yeah. And
he's is he Acoma?
He is Isleta. He's Isleta, and he is the first registered architect for his tribe. Yeah, so and then Jan, she's another architect in the office, Jan Tafria. She's with Potawatomi, and she's, one of the first for her tribe too. She, her upbringing is also up towards Canada. Oh. She's got a lot of family up in Canada, and I remember when we started growing, and I needed a little bit more leadership and someone that was licensed, and I had called her up, and she was kind of in between jobs, and she was she picked up her stuff and she moved here.
Really?
Yeah.
From way up north? And
Yeah,
she came down
she
here?
was living back in the East Coast, and she was like, "I'm coming." So literally, like, called her up, and she's like our mother of the house. Like, she's like,
Is she the one that has the short hair?
yes,
Oh,
yeah,
okay, with
yeah,
glasses.
yeah,
Yes, yes. No, she was. So again, kind of giving everybody a history that when Tamara started her company, I helped out when you guys moved into the silver location
yeah,
by Flying
yeah,
Star.
yeah,
Then I helped you guys with the photos and some marketing stuff.
yeah.
Then when you moved here, I helped you guys get headshots, and that's when I met Jan.
Yeah, that's when you met Jan.
That's when I
Yeah.
met Jan, yeah.
So Jan, yeah. So
Really? So she moved from the East Coast? Huh,
yeah,
interesting.
it was like I think within 2 weeks, and so she's been here ever since too. Nate, he's Navajo, and he is around the Church Rock area. He used to work for David.
Really?
And so when David retired, he was like, approached me and was asking if we needed help, and I was like, oh yes. And working with Nate, I mean, he's very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And he's has great experience.
You have the knowledge for it. Speaking of all that, so you're registered. So is there a significance behind you being a licensed architect?
Yeah, when I got registered, I'm the first Navajo woman registered architect. And, I always want to grow that. And, there's a few other Navajos that are almost there. And it's like, come on, guys, we gotta grow this because it's important. And especially in terms of like Indigenous design, a lot of our Indigenous structures really take on really this, very curvilinear, very, maternalistic way of, you look at architecture and form. Mm-hmm. And traditionally, a lot of these Indigenous tribes, it was really the women that were actually the designers and the planners, where the men were out, gathering food and, they were doing, the outside stuff. So the women were designing and they were collaborating in making these structures.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's all space design.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of our Indigenous structures, you think the way that you sit in the Indigenous structures, and the Indigenous structures are actually built from the inside out. How the house is built and how the functionality of it, the meaning, right? Been meaning behind, the east entrance. A lot of Indigenous, it's not just Navajo, a lot of Indigenous structures face their doors east, right? Yep. We meet and greet the sun.
Yep, every morning.
Every morning. Yep. And so you start to look at a lot of these Indigenous structures across North America, and very similar, right? Yeah. Very similar. Very similar. Very similar. We all share that same experience, even down to like, you listen to them talk about their creation stories. A lot of the Indigenous culture is very similar. Yeah. You can, tie things together, and it's like, oh yeah, that's very similar, to what we think. So, Indigenous structures, yeah, we have to, that's why, here we don't want to just take literal interpretations. I feel like a lot of architecture now is taking those literal interpretations of, architecture. We try not to design buildings that look like really a Hogan. We try to, educate our clients about that. Mm-hmm. Like, we can design architecture, but let the Hogan be the Hogan. Yeah. That it should be. That's
the space for a very specific meaning. So what is the purpose behind the design of the Hogan?
So the Hogan, if you think about the Hogan, you have, logged Hogans, and there's a lot of meaning behind that. So the logs, there's 9 logs, and that also represents when you're, a woman is pregnant and, has a baby in her womb for 9 months. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the top of the Hogan, it also really kind of emulates like the belly of a woman, and the smoke hole is that connection to, the umbilical cord. So you're making that connection to the earth and, Father Sky. So those are important things. And you think about architecture, like how do you do modern architecture to incorporate all these meanings. And there is, right? There is. Like, you have to really understand it, really understand the, traditions and the stories. You walk in East, you got to go in a clockwise. And that's just not for, Navajos, but it's a lot of indigenous structures. A lot of them go clockwise, right? And then, this idea of honoring things throughout the day, right? And, you've got females on one side, you've got males on the other side of a Hogan. Those are very similar to a lot of indigenous tribes. So we're all connected in a way, right? We all came, from this earth, the Mother Earth. Like, so I always try to think about when we design, having these good thoughts. And when you plan and lay things out, you don't want to do anything to your own mother, and you design it, right? You want to have these in good intentions, good ideas behind it, very gentle, right? Yeah. And so those are important, because I feel like, this crazy world that we're living in today, there's violence, right? And more of this kind of really paternalistic view, Western view, right? And that Western view has really, intermingled into our society, right? Yeah. And where we think about, like, greed, right? You hardly ever hear Navajos talk about, well, I want a 6-bedroom house to live in, or, 4-car garage. Like, that is not our indigenous worldview, right? Like, we think of, our family, like, that's who we cherish, right? We don't think of it as monetary things. Like, no, that's our family. So there's things that I think we have to think about, and I think people can learn from this indigenous worldview and how to apply that in terms of architecture. Kind of tying things all together. People can, think about, like, when we tell stories, right? Stories tell us stories tell us, the wants, the wishes, the desires, and the dreams. And, to understand that and put that into a concept, in a very fluid way is really important to the community, and not just trying to exploit, the culture and in a negative way as well. I mean, there's things that, we know as Indigenous people that what we can say and what we can't say, and we understand those.
So we're gonna head out to lunch now.
Yeah. So some of these pictures, this was one of our projects going up. It is for Navajo Technical College. Okay. So it's a university, and some planning. Some more planning work, and this is for the Kayenta chapter, and that was the groundbreaking for that project.
Gotcha. Sharp stuff.
Yeah, and crazy, for, like, literally over 10 years ago.
Yeah, you move really fast.
I'm like, over 10 years ago. Yeah, so that office right over there, you see, it's a charter school.
Okay. Yeah.
So we used to be in there too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, the green and brown one?
Yeah. Not the green brown one, the one,
way in the back.
The 2-story, yeah.
Okay, well, the structure is back there.
That used to be, we used to be in there. I don't remember how long ago, but we've been at several different offices.
Yeah.
There was one office that we always laugh about. It was closer to I-25.
Yeah.
And I remember we used to share a suite with this other company. And it was like, we would have to take in to the restroom a bucket, and we would have, like, our toilet paper and our paper towels and our hand soap in there, because the other tenant and us would use up all the toilet paper and the paper towels for the month. So it was like
it's like a college dorm.
It's like a college dorm,
yeah.
But, like, we felt like we were, like, trekking this big old bucket. You know, so you knew everyone was going to the restroom because they would carry the red bucket with. It reminds us, like, okay, like, oh, you're going to the outhouse. So we would laugh about that because the tenant would be like, oh, you guys used up your toilet paper for the month. We only allocate so much. And I'm like, well, how do they allocate it? You know, per square or what?
Sorry, I don't have a square to spare. I cannot spare a square.
So we would laugh about that, and then we were also underneath the Flying Star downtown, and we got flooded. The sewer pipe busted, and it got flooded, and that was crazy because we're under the basement, and it was like, wow, the smell of this is we got to get out of here. So we ended up leaving that place. And then the other office that we were at was demolished, and then it's now a gas station. Okay. And that one was a nice one because it was like right off I-25. So it was easy access. I mean, this location is easy access right now.
So speaking of home and being from the res, so what are your clans?
My clans, I am Naikarene, and so I'm the Mexican people clan, and I'm born for, on my dad's side, the towering house. And my mother's side of the family is from up in Ganado area, and my dad's side is from the Yambato area. So I grew up in the Yambato with a lot of cousins, and on my mom's side, I remember visiting, her family side. We had a big family, and my grandmother, she was a medicine woman, and she would always teach us, and my aunts about, traditional ways. And so it's like I'm an urban Indian in an urban city, but still really practice, those, traditional knowledges, and coming back and, having the medicine men and, women come out and, do prayers for the, for us and, the office.
So you said this one's a native-owned place?
It's a plant-based food that's a Native American woman that owns Atelia. So they've got like enchiladas, kind of New Mexican flavor. They've got a Navajo taco. They've got a pizza. It's good. I don't eat meat, so they have really good options. Cool. So we should try it.
Let's go check it out.
Yeah, I'm teaching a design studio this semester, and is a Native American performing arts, and so our imaginary site is actually here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, over here. So what can you explain the legality of the site here?
So this site here is the Indian Pueblo Culture Site. So they got a lot of development. Indian Pueblo Culture Center is owned by different Pueblos, and they've acquired this land, and they've got a lot of development. They've got the BIA that's also located on the site. The site has grown. They have Laguna Border. They got Starbucks. They've got an ice cream shop. So there's a lot of things have grown, and they're really trying to promote Native American-owned businesses.
They also have 2 hotels.
And they got 2 hotels, yeah.
Yep. And Domino's, I saw that. And a brewery.
Yeah. So it's
they kind of turned into their own community.
Yeah.
Yeah. I dig it. And I think the Starbucks is the largest one in the state, if I remember.
Yes.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi. Good.
So I was told this is a plant-based company.
Yeah, it's plant-based. It's a native vegan restaurant. Everything's plant-based, no dairies.
Gotcha.
Yeah, everything's fresh.
How long you guys been here?
We've been here since October 10th. We opened on Indigenous Peoples Day.
Oh,
Ooh,
nice.
wow,
That's a grand opening there. All right.
What do you suggest?
I'd say that the Aital Indian taco is really good.
That's what, yeah.
That's like one of the main ones that we have.
Definitely getting that one.
Okay, I'm gonna get that one too. So 2 of those.
Is that going to be for here to go?
For here, and then what do you have to drink?
We just have our juice of the day, but we have our prickly pear lemonade and then our refreshment. And then we also have our smoothies.
I will try the prickly pear.
Yeah, I'll have the same thing.
You guys want 12 ounce or 16?
16,
16?
please. Good call on this. I never knew about this. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Whoa, this is the Itality?
Yeah,
Itality Indian taco. I would say Navajo taco, but I want to start a war here.
It's
This is great.
it's fry bread with beans and yummy, all plant based.
Yep, all plant-based. As natural as you can get.
Very
Right,
good.
so, try
And
it
there's
first.
no dairy in. Is that what they were saying?
For all of
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
non-lactative natives out there, there's hope for us.
There's hope for us.
Yeah. Try that.
Let's take a bite into this yummy. I want to call it a Navajo taco.
Oh no, seriously.
I'm like, I want to.
So I was telling people, I said, it's not Ukraine and Russia that's gonna start World War III. It's when you have Indian taco versus Navajo taco.
Pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. I love onion, so
All right, now
Smoky.
this is the aftermath.
very good. Very good. This is what I'll come to get my Navajo taco fix.
Yeah. A
Vegetarian.
good vegetarian style at Itality. I think that's what it's called. Located by the Pueblo Cultural Center. And over there's Manal, right?
Yep, Manal.
Manal, and then behind us is 12th Street.
Yeah, it's a Native women-owned business. So come support.
Yep.
Support her. This is very good. I mean, they have all kinds. They have pizza.
They have pizza, they have nachos, they have everything. Then we downed our drinks, and food is kaput.
It's great.
All right, come. Let's do this. So I made her an axe murder style. What do you with the dishes?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was delicious. Are there any encouraging words you'd like to say to future Tamaras out there who are considering going into a male-dominant industry?
That my last few words is, I wouldn't be afraid of it. I wouldn't be afraid of going into any profession that is like a male or a female dominated profession. Because there is female dominated professions like nurses.
Yeah.
Like don't be afraid about it. I mean, it's your passion and you want to do what you want to do, then do it. I mean, that's what I did.
Yeah.
And I've always told myself, whatever I'm going to do, I want to do it because I'm going to do my job. It's not just a job, it's a career. I want to do something that I enjoy. Mm-hmm. And I do enjoy it, and I don't know if I'll get tired of it. And I think as Native people, we're always drawn. We're very good at drawing. We can do art. We can do crafts. Very good. We can construct. We could use we're good with our hands, and explore that opportunity.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Hey, it's good seeing you.